Hi, I'm Betty McLean, and welcome to Healthcare Hope, a podcast for nurses. With 2 decades of bedside experience and now as a certified burnout coach, I understand the challenges nurses face. I believe that all stress is manageable and burnout is not inevitable. Join me in building strength for yourself and hope for the future of our industry. All right, so we are back with another episode, and this is my first episode with a guest. So, Dr. Nidhi Agrawal, I am excited to have you on. So, for our listening audience, Nidhi is a certified burnout coach. We met in our burnout certification program, and she has been a fabulous coach for me and a fabulous friend in this industry. So, Nidhi, I would love for you just to talk about, first of all, what do you do in healthcare? What is your role? And then how you found life coaching and burnout coaching and what that looks like. What does your life look like?
Hi, Betty. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor to be here, and especially as your first guest. So I've been a physician for about 25 years. And a few years ago, I was really struggling with juggling multiple balls in the air, being a working parent, being a physician, and wanting to do things in the best possible way and as perfectly as possible and not let anyone down, whether that be my family or my patients or anybody else. So I was really struggling with that. And at some point, it just all kind of came crashing down around my ears. And I had to take a break from working for a few months because I just couldn't keep up the pace and the level of my of expectations that I had for myself. I think that was a really helpful time, though. Looking back, that's how I found coaching
Mhm.
because I realized I needed to do something differently. What I was doing up until that point just wasn't working for me
Yeah.
anymore. So it had served me well, but it wasn't working for me at that point anymore.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky. I found life coach school coaching, and I sort of went all in on the program and myself and working towards what I wanted my career and professional and personal lives to look like. And I think that having been on somewhat of a burnout journey, I think I have learned so much about being in healthcare, about being the person that I want to be, and my strengths and weaknesses, and how
Mhm.
they have shaped who I am as a physician and who I am as a professional woman. And I really think that I have never had more to offer. I've never felt that I have more to accomplish
Mm.
than I do now. And have never felt in as much of a positive environment as I do now, both
Yeah.
personally and professionally.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very cool. So when you had that experience of like everything kind of came crashing down, what did that look like for you? So I know a lot of people, when they experience burnout, they end up having physical symptoms. They end up having a lot of internal dialogue issues that aren't nice. For me, I had a lot of dread and anxiety dealing with going back to work, and a lot of just dread was the was the primary thing, and
Yeah.
a lot of I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, I thought I was slipping. I'd been a nurse for
Mm.
17 years, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't cut it anymore. So for
Mm.
you, what did that look like when everything kind of came crashing down?
Oh, so Betty, I think you're talking about having a lot more insight than I think I had at the
Mm,
time.
yeah,
I don't think I had as much awareness of my anxiety or my
yeah,
perfectionism or what I was trying to do was almost impossible.
yeah.
And I think for me, it was a lot of it was professional. My performance was still good
Mhm.
professionally, but my work relationships were really suffering. And I not only had unreasonable expectations of myself at the time, but I also had unreasonable expectations, I think, of my team. And I
Mm,
think that for me was really the breaking point
yeah.
because I didn't realize that that I had all these unreasonable expectations that nobody could meet, including myself, for any extended
Mhm.
period of time, but that people were around me weren't enjoying working with me. It was just in a very negative, creating a very negative work environment without even
Mhm.
realizing it. I
Yeah.
think for me, that was really my aha moment. And I really, I mean, I was, I wanted to question why that was happening. I didn't
Right.
feel like, I definitely didn't want it to happen. I didn't want people to not enjoy working with me.
Right.
And I think it was definitely a great turning point
Yeah.
for me to see, where I could change things and where what I was doing just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And I needed to figure out what that was, what wasn't working, what I was doing that wasn't working for me, as well as then decide how I wanted to change it. And I think
Yeah.
the difference from what I'm hearing from what you described to where I was is knowing what I knew that what I was something that I was doing wasn't working, but I didn't know what that something
So
was yet.
yeah, so actually my ability to identify it was dread, it was imposter syndrome, that's all post coaching.
Okay, okay,
So
yes,
so when
yes.
I
My
had
perfectionism is
uh-huh,
definitely in the rearview mirror. Right.
right, you're looking back going, "Oh yeah, I
Yes.
was
Yeah.
definitely my expectations were s- crazy inappropriate. I would thought I was needed to be perfect." Yeah, no, all of that understanding that that dread, that anxiety, that I'm slipping thought, all of that
Right.
awareness is
Right.
post
And I
after I
think
found coaching.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think this is where if your audience was going to take one thing
Yeah.
away from today, it would be that things can change and
Yes.
things can change for the better. And I think if I had known that then,
Mhm.
I don't think I would have been
Yeah.
where I was. I think there's this, we go into healthcare as these with these really high expectations that not only we have of ourselves, but I think the culturally in society
Mhm.
has of us
Oh, yeah.
too, which is great. That's who we are. But I think that only works for up to a point. And then
Yes.
after that, I think we kind of tip over into trying to
Yeah.
do too much and accomplish more than I think. I think I also was putting emphasis on things. Looking back on it now, I think I was putting emphasis on things that were less important and not enough emphasis on things
Mm.
that were more important, such as,
Right.
yes, my work performance was great, but I think my work relationships
Right.
would have been more important for me to work on,
Yeah.
just in a general, as my own values in my life. I
Right.
think my people relationships are the most important thing in my
Mhm.
life.
Mm.
My relationships define me a lot more than what I do at work.
Yeah.
So I think there's that too.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned your values because the way that I define or categorize burnout, right? I say that there are four categories of burnout, starting with early stage, middle stage, late stage, and then the final stage. And right there in the middle and late stage, um, one of the characteristics
Mhm.
is you lose sight of your values
Yes.
and your actions are not in alignment with your core values that
With
you
who you are.
started,
Right.
yeah, who you are, why you came into healthcare,
Right.
all of that because you've been so focused on performance and again, not that performance is bad, but you've been focused on it in a way that detracts from your other values.
I love that you said
Yeah,
that. I love how you said that. I
yeah,
totally agree with you. I think you
yeah,
lose yourself a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
in, and you become more about what you are doing than
Yes.
who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that human doing versus that human
Yeah.
being aspect really it almost kind of divides
Mhm.
you a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think that's where you're trying to do more that you don't need to do and not
Mhm.
be
Yeah.
yourself, which
Right.
is where everything in your life is going to come from.
Yeah. I like to and you've heard me say this, but I like to contrast perfectionism with excellence, right? Because
Yeah,
perfectionism is about I need to do everything right so that people like me, people respect me, so that I like myself. I need to be perfect so that nothing goes wrong, right? Whereas if we focus on doing things excellently, it's about the end product. It's about the patient. It's about doing the right thing for them, regardless of whether I'm right or wrong. It's not about me, right? Perfectionism is self-focused, and excellence, doing things with excellence is patient-focused.
Also,
So,
I, I
yeah.
I think excellence is also about doing the best you can. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
it's not about, and by doing the best I can do, it's not about my performance.
Right.
It's about how I make people feel and
Right.
how I relate to people.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that is so critical and so key and so easily lost
Hmm.
in that cauldron of of what you were referring to about the middle and late stage of burnout. That whole cauldron really mixes up and almost dissolves
Yeah.
that sense of who you want to be and how you want to be
Yeah.
showing up
Yeah.
versus what you focus on, and how many patients you see in a day, or
Yeah.
how many physicals you do in a day, or how
Right.
many shots you give in a day,
Right.
and versus how did those patients leave with getting what they came for.
Yes. Yes. Were they seen? Were they heard? Did they
Exactly.
feel, yes, you cared for their body, but did they feel cared for? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a big point.
Yeah. Well, we've touched on this a little bit, and obviously we're both still very passionate about our work in healthcare. But what are some things that you do to stay motivated and passionate about your role as a physician, despite I know there are a lot of challenges still?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing that I would like to say is that I think that it is a very challenging, but it's also the best of both worlds
Mm,
to be actively practicing medicine and be a coach.
mm,
And I think that you and I are the exception
mm.
with that. I think a lot of healthcare coaches are not actively providing patient care as part of their
Oh,
career at the same
okay.
time.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that gives us a perspective and a wisdom that I think that we can share with our clients and our
Hmm.
patients
Hmm.
in a way that if you're doing one or the other, you don't always have the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
perspective and the same access to those points and those
Hmm.
skills. So I think
Hmm.
that's really important to point
Yeah.
out. I think it makes us better coaches and better
Hmm.
healthcare providers
I
that we
agree.
are doing both at the same time.
Yeah,
Really,
I
I do
agree.
firmly believe that. I think in terms of being in healthcare now, I think that the positives for me is, the overarching one is that what I'm doing is not only making a difference to my patients, but it's also helping me evolve
Mm,
as I navigate the challenges.
yeah.
I think that we're going to be thrown challenges, whether we are in
Yep.
healthcare or not, whether
Yep.
we are, whether it's from a family perspective or
Mhm,
anything else
mhm,
perspective, anything you're doing in your life, you're going to be facing challenges. So that's good. But
100%.
I think the difference between being in burnout and now for me is
Mhm,
that I don't feel that there is no way out, that I can't
mm,
change anything, and that I'm powerless, and that this is what is
mm.
given to me.
Yeah.
I feel like every challenge is an opportunity for me to ask questions
Mhm,
about
mhm.
what is really happening here? What do
Yeah.
I need to stay focused on? How do I want to
Mhm,
show up in this situation? How
mm,
can I move towards a result or an outcome that reflects who I am and
mm,
maintains my integrity, but still moves me forward in a way that gets me the result that I want? And
mm.
I think that is I think just having the awareness that the challenge does not define me, and that I have options in
Yes.
terms of how I want to try to overcome the challenge. I think for me, that is probably this biggest significant change, that
Yeah.
I don't have to fall
Mhm.
to just because a challenge arises, that I
Right.
can rise
Right.
and I can overcome challenges. For me,
Yeah.
that has been, especially at work where I feel
Yeah.
we're in such a regulated environment
Yeah.
that that our hands are tied often so much. There's so much hierarchical
Mhm,
rules and regulations. There's so much administrative rules and regulations,
mhm.
not just documentation, but
Yeah.
also, the chain of command and things like
Yeah.
that. And I think that working in those constraints,
Yeah.
I think I still feel that I have options when challenges
Mm,
arise, and that I still have a voice and I still have
mhm,
myself
mm.
to lean on to find
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
avenues for overcoming those challenges. Does that,
Yeah.
am I answering?
That's oh yeah, that so makes sense because when I think about motivation, right? I often think about motivation in terms of running. I know we're both runners. Like you're
Yeah.
never motivated to go on that training run, right?
No.
Until you slow down and you ask, well, what's the opportunity here? How do I want to show up at my next race? How do I want to show up for my body? And you get to that value and you're like, oh, I am motivated to do this, right?
Right.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is coaching has allowed you to stay very empowered
Mm,
and to stay engaged, even in situations where don't you don't seem to have a lot of power as a nurse. Like I'm right there with you, like the regulations, the administration, protocols, the policies, right? Everything is
yeah.
saying you have no power, you have no power, you have no power, right? It's all on the hospital system, it's all on the clinic, it's all on the protocols, right? It's all on your manager. But what I've experienced as well, and what it sounds like you've experienced, is coaching and the tools that we use to get out of burnout are so empowering that it doesn't matter that the system isn't necessarily built for us to feel powerful. We can feel powerful within ourselves. And that, for me at least, has changed my whole experience of being a nurse. Is like, yeah, the system has got problems, but I
Right.
can
No,
I can
yeah,
still show
absolutely.
up and be excellent and be motivated and be the best that I can be because I lean, like you said, lean on myself, lean on my own tools and my own internal power. So
Yeah, I
awesome.
think that is probably yeah, I think leaning
Yeah.
on my and it's that what we were saying before, we come back to ourselves, right? We're
Yeah.
coming back to who
Yes.
we are
Yeah. Our
and
values.
not what we're doing. And I think
Yes.
that is like, when I'm in a situation that is challenging, I think about who I want to be in that
Hmm.
situation. Okay, I want to be respectful and I
Hmm.
want to be productive and I
Hmm.
want to make sure that I am even following the rules and regulations that
Yes,
that's part
absolutely.
of my decision making.
Hmm.
And okay, well, within those constraints, this is what I can do. I
Yes.
can call and ask for help. I can
Hmm.
alert somebody who does have the authority to change
Yes.
something.
Yes.
I can communicate. I can even just a simple, like when I'm seeing patients,
Yeah.
sometimes there's going to be things that people need sooner, and sometimes there's things that people need that can wait.
Yes.
Even just employing that simple strategy in those busy, overwhelming moments that we all have in
Yep.
clinic or in the hospital,
Yep.
even just taking a moment to just say, I have the power to decide
Hmm.
which patient's needs I'm going to address next,
Yes.
which patient I think has the most urgent needs in this
In this
moment right
moment.
now. Even
Yes.
something like that is still
Mm.
more empowering than, oh my goodness, I've got 15 patients and clinic's supposed to end in an hour. Like that's kind of the difference. Feeling like you've had a great day at work versus feeling
Right.
like you had not a great day at work,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes. That's so interesting because, like, when I worked in the hospital, I did a lot of precepting. So I would take the new grads and have them for, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, training them up on how to do things, how to follow the protocols, but also how to make those decisions. And it was always interesting to me because there was this sense in most people that, like, the shift was happening to them, right?
Yes.
And for a long time, before I had a couple of traumatic experiences and started to get into that position as well and get into burnout, um, I didn't experience that. I happened to the shift.
Yes.
It was my decision who I saw first. It was my clinical judgment that said which did I need to call the doctor on and which could I handle, right? It
Right?
was right, and that was very empowering. And it was hard for me to like teach that though without now that I have my coaching skills, I'm like, "Oh, I know what I was missing there. I didn't know how to teach empowerment."
And I think
That's
also,
what yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that coaching has allowed me to be aware when I'm making those decisions now, which I
Yes. Yes.
wasn't always. I probably was making those decisions
Hmm.
then, but they
Yeah.
were just happening in the background.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
now I'm saying, okay, I don't want this clinic to be this chaotic, so I'm going to slow everything down.
Right.
And one of the ways I'm going to do that is to make these decisions.
Yep.
And everybody's still going to get everything they need. All
Yes.
the patients are still going to get
Yes.
seen. All
Yes.
the patients' medications are all going to be called in.
Yep.
All the patients are going to have everything they need. That's not
Right.
a problem.
Yeah.
And, but I have to do it in a way that I am still not going to
Hmm.
burn myself out,
Yep.
and everybody has their needs. I think
Yeah.
before coaching, I would have done it in a way that I wasn't really a factor as
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
And I think that I love that coaching has brought me
Yeah.
so much consciousness and
Yes.
so much deliberation
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
what I'm choosing in a moment
Hmm.
versus before when I was so much more on default of what was expected to happen at any
Hmm.
given moment. I think that for me is also a really big piece of the change from
Hmm.
quote unquote before and after.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, is there anything that you are personally doing now to manage acute stress so that you prevent burnout in the future?
I actually, and I know that this is a favorite topic of ours, but I'm actually giving more to myself
Hmm.
for each shift that I work on than I ever have given before. I always, knew I was going to work. It was important. I wanted to show up as a professional, but I think before it was on a much more superficial level. I think now I am making sure I have a lot more nourishing food with me each day,
Hmm.
that I'm taking more breaks during my
Yep.
shift, that I'm well rested,
Mhm.
that I'm sort of paying attention more to what I need because my firm, honest to goodness belief is that the more we take care of our healthcare professionals, the better patient care they will be able to provide. You cannot not take care of your
Amen.
healthcare professionals and and expect them to give good patient care or the best patient care or is even better patient care than they're
Yeah.
providing now. It will
Yes.
always improve. When we feel cared for as healthcare professionals, we will give better care. I mean, we're just human.
Yes.
How it works, right?
Mic drop,
So
say it louder for the people at the top. When you take care of
and
your healthcare professionals, they take better care of the patients. Full stop. Yes.
right? So I
And it
think
starts with
that,
ourselves.
and I mean, is this really such an epiphany? I guess.
No,
So
apparently, apparently.
news to me. So I am actually taking some time to meal prep for the weeks that I'm working multiple shifts. I'm taking some time to plan out, what I'm going to be doing
Hmm.
on my days that I'm in the clinic and not in the clinic or whatever I'm
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
As healthcare professionals, I think time is of a premium.
Yeah.
We're expected to get so much more done in an 8-hour day or a 12-hour shift than any other human on earth. And I think, except maybe moms, and I
Mhm.
think that like time is always such a premium. Patients are always, the tenet that patients should not have to wait. I don't know
Mhm.
about, I don't know, like
Yeah.
again, another
Always.
unrealistic expectation that we're all
Hmm.
trying to live up to.
Hmm.
And I think that planning out how I'm going to use all of the time that I'm at work in a less haphazard, in a more planned way,
Yeah.
I think is for me an essence of my time management that I know I have these many hours that
Hmm.
I'm going to need to get all of these things done. And I am spending more time planning out how all of those things are going to get accomplished. And I think one of the I mean, definitely time management as a tool by itself, but also just chunking out. I'm not trying to get everything done in one shift. Out of all the emails I have to send and all of the other
Hmm.
things that I have to get done, I'm planning out on this day I'm going to get these three sent. On this day I'm going to get this done, and on this day I'm going to get this done. By the end of the week, everything will be done, but just not maybe by 5 o'clock on Monday.
Right.
And I think that again, we're changing my expectations, leaning on my own agency to know A, what I have to get done, and B, how I'm going to do it, and C, now when I'm going to do it, I think is probably one of the ways that I'm kind of caring for myself, because now I'm not worrying about when am I going to do everything? How's everything going to get done? Like all of that mental messaging is much quieter now, because I
Mm,
know on this day I'm going to get this done, and by the end of the week, everything that I need will be done.
yeah. Well, and I love that because when we take that chaos in our brain and we're like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I've just got so much to do," right? And we actually lay it out in a logical way, it really does lower your stress because it allows your
yeah,
body to actually respond to actual stressors, right? Because when we have
yeah,
all
that's
that
true.
chaos in our brain and then we have a code, it's like, well, I don't have room for this, right? And
Right.
that's where we get into trauma.
Right. I
Where
agree with you. I think that
yeah,
turning down that roof chatter
yep.
initially really creates a lot of space for us to be available for the more demanding aspects of our work that are also always going to be there. There's
Mhm,
always going to be the next emergency, the next code, as you say,
mhm,
the
mhm.
next drop
Yep,
everything and go and attend to this patient. You're right. To create that space for that is not going to happen when you're already putting out fires with, constantly putting out fires from roof
yeah.
chatter.
Yeah, yeah. When we have a more stable, this is the essence of resiliency. When we have a stable internal dialogue and a stable internal sense of self, it is so much easier to respond to trauma and to stressors in the environment because, like you said, you're leaning on yourself, you're leaning on your logic and your reasoning, and that keeps that primitive part of our brain safe, right? Like I think that's brilliant, and I love that you are leaning into
And
that.
also
So
just
good.
knowing that I have the option, I have the
Yeah.
ability to get everything done. I think when we're in burnout, I think we lose sight of what
Mm,
is, well, we don't triage anything.
yeah. Yeah.
Everything is the same importance level. But I also think that, just knowing that everything I want to get done will get done. I think just even, I mean, even as I say that sentence to you, it
Mm,
sounds more organized and deliberate and slower than, I have to get everything done now. I think that is just knowing that everything I want to have done can be done is so freeing and reduces my stress levels so much.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. All right. Well, what if people are listening and they really resonate with your experience and they want to follow you or contact you, how should they do that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I have a website. It is www.resultscoachmd.com. Results Coach MD is all one word, all small letters. And they can go there, they can check out my burnout program, my time program. We touched a little bit on time and some goals.
Mm,
And yeah, I would love to hear anybody's feedback about what they've heard. You can also check me out on Instagram as the same handle, Results Coach MD. And yeah, let's start a conversation. I want to hear where people are, what their experience has been, and where they would like to be but don't think they could be. I think
yeah.
for me that's my biggest question, because I knew where I wanted to be but I just couldn't see how I could get there.
How you can get there. Exactly. I love that. Well, Nidhi, this has been an amazing conversation. I always love talking with you because we are in so much alignment as far as how coaching can change people's lives and when we change our life, we change the life of everyone around us. So thank you
Sure.
for a lovely conversation as always. So
Thanks, Betty. I
you're
really
welcome.
am so grateful to you for having me on and introducing me to your audience, and yeah, love you. I love working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same. Right back at you. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening today. If you're ready for support and looking for a community of like minded healthcare professionals, join me in my free private Facebook group called Healthcare Hope with Coach Betty. If you found this episode helpful or encouraging, please share it with your friends and fellow nurses. Subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Together, we can create strength for our lives and hope in healthcare.